It's that time of year for joy and cheer and for us to make a Christmas beer. Hi, I'm Daryl Smith, sorry for that intro. This is my channel where we brew and make things which are fun to produce. And what I'm doing this week is making a chocolate orange stout for Christmas. This is going to be a milk stout, which is a type of stout which has lactose in it, which is sugar from milk, which is non-fermentable. It means that you can have a sweet beer because the lactose isn't being eaten by the yeast and so isn't being converted into alcohol. So if you get a milk stout right, it's got a subtle sweetness. It doesn't become like a smoothie, although you can do that if you really want, but it probably wouldn't suit a stout. So I'm planning on using real orange in this recipe to hopefully give a bit of a chocolate orange feel to it, you know, which is quite a festive taste. And I'm aiming for a relatively low ABV of around 4.5, so it's perfect for sipping on Christmas Day without suddenly getting plastered at 2 in the afternoon. So now you know all that, let's get brewing. Because my tap water is almost identical to the London water profile, I rarely need to alter my water chemistry for darker beers like this. I then lit the burners and got my water up to the target temperature of 72 degrees. Whilst the water was heating up, I began to measure out the grains, which was 3.5 kilograms of pale Maris Otter as the base malt. My other malts were 420 grams of chocolate malt to add that toasty chocolate flavour, 260 grams of Crystal Malt for colour and head retention, 260 of roasted barley to give that characteristic flavour of stouts, and 600 grams of Flaked Oats for mouthfeel. The full recipe is in the description. It'd be also great if you could like and comment on this video. Let me know what's the best Christmas themed beer you've ever drank or made. I also prepared some of my other ingredients. I measured out 500 grams of lactose sugar. My only two hop additions were 33 grams of Fuggle for the start of the 60-minute boil and another 33 grams of Fuggle to be added in the last 30 minutes of the boil. I also measured out Irish moss to help clear the beer and yeast nutrients so to kick off a healthy fermentation. Once the water was up to temp, I added my grain bag and grains, making sure to stir regularly to stop clumping. The grains reduced the water's temperature to my target mash temperature of 67 degrees. I used a thick blanket and then gave my grains a good stir 30 minutes into the mash. Another 30 minutes in, I checked the temperature again and started stirring for 15 minutes so to get all the sugars out of the grains. I then drained the grain bag, squeezed it and left it to drip for 15 minutes whilst I got the wort boiling. Once the water was boiling, it was then time to start the 60-minute boil and add my first hop addition. Whilst that was boiling away, I began to prepare my oranges. I zested 10 fresh oranges to give my stout its oranginess. 30 minutes into the boil, I added my second hop addition. 15 minutes before the end, I added my copper cooling coil. 5 minutes later, I added my Irish moss and yeast nutrient. 5 minutes shy of the end, I added my orange zest. And at flameout, I started cooling the wort and added the lactose. I then got the wort down to 40 degrees Celsius and added it to a fermenter, allowing some splashing so to add oxygen. And then in went my Kveik Voss yeast, and after a very good shake, I put it onto a heat pad and left it to ferment a week before bottling. So there we go, that was my brew day. I really enjoyed using oranges. It was a really interesting addition and it took way longer to zest them than what I was expecting, but I got it done. So here it is. I ended with a higher final gravity than what I was expecting. It is about 3.8%, but I'm still really pleased with it, and it, you know, 3.8% means that you can drink even more of them on Christmas Day. So let's open one. See, it's not like spilling out, so this makes me very strongly believe that it had stopped fermenting before I bottled it. Look at that. That has got the iconic kind of colour that you'd expect to have on a stout. Smells fantastic. I'm really proud of the fact that it has a very strong orange smell. You get that roasty, toasty smell that you'd expect from a stout, but then there is that undeniable orange zest to it. And the taste, I think it's got a very complex flavour. It clearly is a stout. It's malt forward, very drinkable. It's got a nice mouthfeel to it. There is an orange taste to it, but I have to say it's not like super orangey, and it's got a nice balanced sweetness. I feel like the orange element of it is very orange zest flavored. Now I know that's quite obvious because that's the only part of an orange that I actually used in this recipe. But it does make me think that maybe I should have done more than just a zest, maybe added juice, or I maybe infused orange with vodka and then added it in. Orange doesn't ferment well from what I understand. That's why you don't see orange ciders. So maybe that's why I am better off using zest in this recipe. Thinking more on if I wanted to punch up how orangey this beer is, then maybe I would have used maybe mandarin hops. I've heard that they add a great orange flavor to a beer, so maybe some of them, or a different hop that is quite orangey. The only other element is the chocolatiness, which I think from the lactose with the chocolate malt in this beer, there certainly is like a dark chocolatiness to it. But again, if I wanted to bump up how chocolatey this beer actually is, probably cocoa nibs could have been a good idea. With all that said, it's a really delicious beer. I'm really proud of it. I think it's actually one of the best dark beers that I've ever made. I highly recommend you give this a go, and maybe if you fancy making it a bit more chocolate orangey, then you could do my suggestions. I think next year for Christmas, I'll probably make this same beer again, but ramp up everything, you know, make it super chocolatey, super orangey, and see if we can make it sickly. So thank you for watching this video. Give it a like if you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments below, what's the best Christmas beer you've ever made or drank? This is certainly the best one I've ever made, and the only one. Thank you for watching this video. Have a great Christmas if you're watching this before Christmas. Have a great year next year if you're watching it after Christmas. Cheers.